friends. Welcome to Dads and Daddies, a podcast about the lives and times of adult gay men in the here and now. I'm Brian Reuben Sowers, the dad.
And I am Judson Morrow, the daddy.
Hi, Judson.
Hey, Dad. What is going on? Great to see you.
Great to see you, too. How has your week been?
I mean, I saw you this week earlier, but delighted to see you again.
Yes.
It's hard to answer because my entire mental state is clouded by the fact that on Tuesday, I started quitting vaping.
Okay.
It coincided with, delightfully, a year back in sobriety.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. But all the joy was clouded by irritability. It's actually really funny. That morning, my husband knew I was quitting, and that morning he was like, I'm so proud of you. Great job on a year, and good luck. And I said, no. Good luck to you. You're fucked, bro. So it's actually, it's going quite well, I think. I feel better than I had anticipated at this point in the week. So much of it is less about the chemical, although that's a huge part, but just like the habit,
right?
Like the physical and psychological habit. I do have support, right? Like I'm using step-down on patches. I use the gum for like very acute cravings. I have a friend, shout out to James, who is quitting vaping at the same time. So we have each other.
That's nice.
It's been fine. But like it's definitely...
We're only a few days in.
We're only a few days in. We're on day 4.
Okay.
And I just want to say to all of our listeners, if you are making changes to your life, whether it be like diet, fitness, finding new friends, quitting a substance, picking up a healthier substance, changing habits is so hard.
Yes.
And just keep at it. Something I love from Smart Recovery and not 12-step is a lapse in abstinence is not the same thing as giving up on it. So I'm being very gentle to myself. This is not license to use at all.
Right.
But it sort of like de-shames and de-stresses any kind of like lapse. But 4 days in, I haven't vaped.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you so
I'm very proud of you.
Thank you so much.
Let's see how this episode goes.
I'm fucking proud of you too. But here's the thing too. I'm kind of crazy because the Nick withdrawal pulls me out of bed. So I've been awake since 4:30 and I'm hyper caffeinated. I'm annoying. Like I got on a 9:30 meeting at work and was like, hey everyone, I'm going to be really annoying just so you're aware.
And it sounds like you've already had a full day. It's not quite noon as we're starting to record, and it sounds like you've already had quite the full day.
I had the cutest little morning. The thing I will say is if you are up at 4:30 and you are on the apps, everyone in the vicinity is high as fuck, right? Like that just doesn't serve me.
Right.
4:30.
They could be getting up for work.
4:30.
They could be getting up to go to the gym and deciding whether they're going to go to the gym or have a hookup.
I would feel that way about 5:30, but 4:30 is like, that's the witching hour.
Right.
So instead I use that time to woof at guys in like Abu Dhabi or Barcelona who I know have been awake. And the thing that I appreciate is they respond. Like I think guys who are farther away are... because hookups, the actual physical hookup is off the table, are more likely to get into role play, more open with compliments, more gracious with compliments. I know you don't do this, but like, because you're like, why the fuck are you bothering me?
For me, the whole, like, I think I've explained this at least to you before, if not on the pod yet, that like, I don't even watch porn. It's just never done anything for me because unless there is the possibility of something actually happening for me, it doesn't turn me on. And so the apps for me have always been my porn because there's that possibility that something could indeed happen. So a conversation with somebody halfway across the world just does not do it for me.
Oh, I love it. I think there's hotties everywhere.
No, I know, but I need a hottie who can
follow through.
invite me over within the next 30 minutes to spend 20 minutes with them.
So I did spend enough time that the hours ticked on by, and around 7 a.m. I arranged a hookup.
Okay.
It was delightful.
Oh, nice.
A lovely daddy-son experience. He was so hot and so sweet, and changing neighborhoods tomorrow.
Oh, wow. So you caught him. It was like a fire sale.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm never going to see you again. He's literally moving like 3 neighborhoods away in Brooklyn.
Okay.
But like that's I think outside the periphery for most men.
Right.
Like
right.
if you're a mile away, it's not going to happen.
I mean, Toby will get on his bicycle and go anywhere. So
Uh-huh.
the apps are a much wider selection for him.
I need it to be like 4 train stops or like less than a mile walking.
Oh, yeah. 4 train stops for me is even extreme.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it depends on the.
They need to be in my building.
The issue being that your building is filled only with families who send their kids to my kids' school.
Yeah, that's totally true. All the dads in my building know Brian and now know that I'm a slut because they've listened to the podcast through you.
No, they've all known about the podcast through you, and now they all know that I'm a slut.
So
anyway,
the morning was delightful. In order to get to this hookup, I had to walk past a mutual friend's home.
Yes.
And keep in mind, I'd been up for 4 hours.
Yes.
And I was just kind of like, bro, you up? We went and got a coffee and a bacon, egg, and cheese together. And I was even on time for my 9:30. So I've had a full ass day.
I know, and it's just noon right this second. That's amazing. Well, so it sounds like your coming off of vaping is contributing to an even more full life experience.
That is such a gracious way to put it, given my irritability.
Which I, thankfully, knock on wood, have not experienced yet. But
oh no, it's
we
not
only
at
just
all.
started.
Yeah. Catch me in 30 minutes. Brian, shut up. How's your day going? How was your week?
My week was great. I'm actually very excited because this was my first opportunity to get to do this on the podcast. This is our 6th episode to air, and I am going to share a theater review.
Oh, please.
I'm very excited about because, that's not necessarily the point of our podcast to be a
it is.
culture podcast. But
it is.
Judson knows this about me. I don't know that our listeners know quite yet, but I am a huge fan of the theater. It's the reason I live in New York. I moved to New York to work on Broadway. I spent 6 Broadway seasons as a Broadway press agent. And so, my husband and I, my husband also loves the theater. We try to take enough time for date nights, and we largely prioritize seeing shows. And there is a show that opened very recently at a new theater in very downtown New York. It's called the Perlman Arts Center, and it is in the same footprint as the 9/11 Memorial.
It's the newest Broadway theater.
It's not a Broadway theater. It's off Broadway.
It's off Broadway. Okay.
But it's a brand new performing arts center, and they are doing a production of Cats. They're calling it Cats: The Jellicle Ball, and it is set in the world of ballroom culture. And when I first heard about this concept back when this performing arts center first announced what their inaugural season was going to be, I immediately joined as a member because I wanted to be the first to buy tickets, because I knew then that this was going to be something I needed to see. And I was right. It's so beautiful and such an incredible celebration of queerness and pride. I mean, it felt like a true pride celebration. What's so fascinating is it works on so many levels. And this is a show, Cats, obviously, that has been kind of just in and of itself become a punchline. People talk about Cats as a joke, really, at this point. Even though when it first came to Broadway, I think it was quite revolutionary in so much of what it was doing. For those who don't know Cats well, it is literally just a show of a bunch of cats singing about themselves and other cats and introducing themselves. There's not a tremendous amount of storyline. It's all of these cats gathering on one night a year for what they call the Jellicle Ball, which was true in the original also. And through the course of this evening, one cat is chosen by the most senior cat, Old Deuteronomy, to go on to the Heaviside layer, which essentially is heaven, and be reborn because, of course, cats live 9 lives. And so it's kind of almost all of them auditioning for, this honor. And but there's not much of a story, but it's great music or fun music. And but the way this show has redefined it, I looked this up to get to get good language to describe it, but I found an article called from some website about language called "How Disco Language Shaped a Vivid Era," and the way they term it is cat was a term of endearment for someone considered cool or impressive in their demeanor. It was a sign of respect and admiration in urban subcultures. So if you think of cat in that term and not as the
a feline,
animal, yes.
He's a hip cat. He's a cool cat.
Exactly.
Sure.
Then all of a sudden, you're not watching a show anymore about cats, and the fact that it's set in ballroom culture makes perfect sense. And it is staged on a runway, and these performers are all incredible, and they move all over the theater, and it is just joyous and incredible, and it just makes you feel so excited to live in this day and age where we can take this show that from the 80s that was the most derided, joked about show for many years and make it this new anthem for pride. It's so cool, and I think every queer person should see it. It's just been extended to the middle of August, and there are already rumblings that they're looking for a space to bring it to on Broadway. And there's a perfect one in terms of shape of theater, maybe not big enough, but in terms of audience. But I really hope it does, because it really should be seen. It's just lovely and fun, and the talent, the voices, the dancing, and the opportunity it's giving to so many of these people who are queer and trans and all the terms and definitions, and it's really for everybody.
Historically underrepresented in all the arts.
Yes.
I do have a question for you, because I love to make things uncomfortable.
Yes.
How much are tickets, Brian?
That's a great question.
Because all queer people, that is a great recommendation, but
yes.
all queer people cannot afford.
Yes, I think they are comparable to Broadway ticket prices, which are
$17,000.
No, they're not $17,000, but I think the top tickets are probably $200 to $300, but I don't know what the lower prices are. I'm sure there's a range. I have not.
Is there a lottery? No, that's a Broadway thing.
I don't know that there's a lottery. There might be at the Perelman Arts Center, but I'm sure if it were to transfer to Broadway, there would be. But I do think it's worth looking into all the options to get in. I also strongly believe there's not a bad seat in that house, because these performers are truly all over the place. And when you buy your tickets and you see the map, I kind of assumed that the way, a thrust theater is, that the seats facing the end would be the best seats, and the seats from the side would be kind of watching it from the side. But in watching it now, I realize that actually those sides of the runway are probably the best seats in the house. It's beautifully directed from every angle. I recently saw the production of Cabaret that's on Broadway, and which I don't have anything nice to say about, and felt that where we were seated was the director had forgotten about. I felt like we were watching the whole thing from behind, even though that is a production that is meant to be in the round. I felt like the director clearly sat in one seat the whole time she was directing it, and just directed from there. But this production of Cats is meant for everybody, and I'm particularly proud of myself, because when I joined as a member so I could get those, get in early to buy tickets. I also bought a separate set of tickets to take the kids. So we're taking them in a few weeks, and I'm super excited for them to see it because I think it's just like so cool for them to see this representation and this celebration of all kinds of folks. Junior LaBeija is in it, who's from that world, that ballroom culture, and has an incredible number. It's anyway. So yes. Go see Cats, the Jellicle Ball at the Perlman Arts Center.
Yeah, and your youngest just did a drag show to Padam Padam, which we learned on a previous episode.
Yes.
So I think she will really love it.
I
think they'll both like it. That's a great review. I'm gonna link up with you on schedules. Maybe we'll go that day.
Yeah.
This is now a theater review podcast.
Are we ready for our next segment?
Yeah, let's take a break and get into it.
Before we do, I just want to say, so this week's topic is shame. And I wanted to let our listeners know about a little bit of shame that you and I experienced together, which is that last week you all heard our episode on positions, which we actually recorded back in the middle of April. And after we sat with that for a little bit, we kind of felt a little bit of shame or embarrassment about our lack of inclusion or attitude about sides.
But you yourself just said in this theater segment that sides are the best seat in the house.
Exactly that. Our attitudes have evolved since we recorded in April. So I wanted to just take this opportunity to let you all know that next week's episode is our sides episode. In which we discuss our thoughts about everything else that sex can be outside of, penetrative. And yeah, I just want to let you know that before we take a break. But now we're going to take a break.
See you in a bit. What's the most shameful thing you've ever done?
Oh, wow. I don't
Straight
know
to the
about
heart.
that. What's that?
Straight to the heart.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's funny. When the things that I feel the most shame about are like some core memories from my childhood, ways I treated a friend in elementary school, the way I treated my sister, I have like certain nights when I was left home to babysit my sister, like who was, idolized me and is 5 years younger than me, and was very sensitive to my parents being out and certainly my mom being out. They were very, very close. And I, feeling that remembering certain moments where I feel like, I could have treated her better. I have one memory at school, and I don't even remember the kids involved, but I remember one kid dared me, I think I must have been in the second grade, to like swing my backpack around, which had a, 70s metal lunchbox like inside, and like hit some older kid on the back, some girl that was, I guess, in our carpool, maybe his older sister, and that I did, and it hurt her. And I can picture the whole moment, and I still have deep shame around that. But
that woman, folks, is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Look what she went on to do.
Oh my God.
Jesus, Brian, thank you so much.
Yeah, exactly. But the reason I came to you and said, like, I want to talk shame is because, like, I continue. Well, first of all, it's funny, ironic, I don't know, that just a few weeks after Pride, we're talking shame.
Well, it's the flip side of that coin.
Well,
right?
Of course it is. Of course. I mean, and as I explained to my kids' class, the reason we call it Pride is because we spend all these years getting signals that we should feel shame. But all those signals end up meaning that we do feel it, and it's so hard to fight. And so I've been experiencing a few like mishaps let's call them in my life, little things. But anytime, like right now, as I've mentioned to you, I'm having a little bit of a medical moment, nothing serious, nothing contagious, and not an STI, even though I thought it was, where I'm having to take some antibiotics. I'm having to refrain from bottoming for a little bit. But I can't help my brain going to, is it some kind of a punishment? Am I being punished for doing this podcast and spreading the gospel about open relationships? Like there's like clearly like some deep-seated shame in me, even though
interesting. Like
I'm
in some way you like deserve
right,
this,
right,
or
and that like
earned the ire.
Yeah. You know, I don't consider myself a religious person. I'm very culturally Jewish, and my Judaism is very important to me. But I do feel that I have I believe in God, and I know that's maybe not a popular opinion anymore, but I do believe in God myself, and I do have what I consider to be a close relationship with God, and I have a mantra that I use for myself when in moments of anxiety, which is, and this is a very personal revelation, but that's what we do here on Dads and Daddies. My mantra is, everything happens for a reason. Everything will be fine. I live a blessed life. God is with me always. And it's just like in those moments where I feel like the world might be falling apart, I just continue to tell that to myself, and it helps me through. But because of that, I also like when I do have when I get an STI, or when a hookup works out badly, or I don't know, like, or even things that aren't sex related, in my mind, I can't help but think like, is that some kind of like punishment for hooking up, for being in an open relationship, for spreading this word? But at the same time, there's a part of me that like my intellectual side feels like, no, what I'm doing here is right. Like this is like this spreading the word of like giving your partner freedom and respecting that freedom, and helping people find ways to avoid letting that be something that gets in the way of a loving relationship and all these things. Like, I think that's such a positive, but clearly I personally suffer from like still deep shame around sex. And I also, every time I leave a hookup, unless it's a spectacular hookup, which to my mind is few and far between, I always leave there like scolding myself and like, why did you have to do that? And like, for what, for like in this like way that is very shame associated.
I think that's probably very common for a lot of queer people, especially because of the way that we get brought up.
Yeah.
I don't feel shame in the same way that you describe. What we do have in common is that I do feel shame when I think that I have hurt someone's feelings,
yes,
whether inadvertently or deliberately. As a sober person, I try to be much better about keeping my side of the street clean. So if it does happen, I'm very quick to admit that I've made a mistake.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of shame about how I conduct myself sexually, unless, and I think we've talked about this before, unless I go against my gut. Because at 41 years old, my gut has proven me right so many times.
Of course.
So when I go against it and then things turn out as poorly as I imagined that they would, heading into it with a negative feeling, I feel a certain sense of shame for not trusting myself. So I do feel it that way. But I don't know, like I definitely think of all of this as a service to other people. I don't feel any shame about what I'm saying here or what I'm saying with you. It doesn't really rear its ugly head for me now, but I did grow up in an Assembly of God, which is a branch of evangelical Christianity. So the shame was like a huge, huge part. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I remember my parents were like, no sex before marriage. And it's like, well, I guess I'm never going to have sex because we can't get married. Which is like, that's a very simple equation for like a 14-year-old quote unquote Christian boy.
Right.
So it took a while, but eventually, like, we got there.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously it's not what I lead with, because I am doing, and I'm like, I work to conquer it, and I know that so much of it comes from a place of negativity, or I've been reading this book with my daughter about anxiety, and it talks about how like anxiety is lying to you, and so like I try to convince myself of the same thing, that that it is not true. The shame is not the feeling that I should be feeling about these things. That it comes from a bunch of lies, essentially. But it's hard to fight.
Well, it's also amazing to me that like that evolution has not yet taken care of anxiety in human beings. Like before, it was for us to live, right? It was our nervous systems were activated because we were in imminent danger.
Right.
And now we get anxious because we have like 2,000 emails.
Right.
And it's like, dude, you're not gonna fucking die over email.
Right.
Like it's absolutely fine. So that it has not been evolved out is very fascinating to me. But it is a huge shame is a liar. Shame and anxiety are liars.
Yeah.
And I do carry some shame around. Listen, the things that I did when I was high on crystal meth, some of them were very depraved.
Right.
I'm thinking specifically of there was an occasion where this guy locked me in his dog's cage and made me bark like a dog so I could like get a hit. And anyone who's experiencing that now away from drugs, if that is an activity with consent, I don't want to shame it, right? Like if you like to be caged and your trainer is getting you to bark like a dog because it brings you pleasure and it brings him pleasure, like I think that is absolutely great. This was not a situation that was fueled by consent. This was a situation that was fueled by addiction.
Right.
And when I look back at that, it's like, damn, I really did some fucked up stuff just so I could get fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want to be locked in a cage.
Right.
But I did whatever I felt like I had to do to get the thing that I needed.
Wow. Yeah.
So I don't carry a ton of shame around those. It's a little cringy, and they say in the program all the time, like, look back at your past, but don't stare at it.
Mm-hmm.
The piece that I still struggle with is how much I lied to my spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I do carry shame around that because I do love this person deeply.
Right.
And I had a dark passenger who was keeping me from telling him the truth.
Right.
And I'm very honest with him now, and he has been extremely forgiving. But there's just like a certain level of ick when I think, God, I can't believe I did this or said this or didn't say this when it happened.
Yeah.
So that I would say is like my biggest area of shame, but I don't think it's not debilitating.
Yeah.
It's just like gives me the icks sometime.
Yeah.
And also gives me a platform to be better moving forward.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I want to avoid this feeling in the future, I should do this thing right now.
Yeah.
And it's not imposed by him either. Like my husband does not shame me.
Right.
Period. This is a self-inflicted wound based on my behavior and my attitudes toward him.
Right.
But it's deep because it went on for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to, and I was going to say, I need to train myself out of these like inner dialogues, because I do know and believe wholeheartedly that, doing what we're doing here, talking about these topics, and I'm speaking particularly of when we go into highly sexual topics, that we are doing a service here, and I feel like, and I don't mean to inflate myself or ourselves or what we're doing here, but I feel like society's at an inflection point when it comes to open relationships. I was just with a straight female. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Queer female friend yesterday, but who up until recently I mistakenly assumed was straight. And
because of bi erasure.
yeah. And I even actually in this conversation yesterday with her was telling her about the podcast, and I made a comment about like, it's not really for straight people. And so I was trying to explain away why I hadn't told her about it yet. And she said, oh, it's funny that you think of me as one of your straight friends. And then proceeded to tell me about how her marriage, which to the naked eye appears to be a traditional straight marriage, is an open marriage, and about how the other relationships that she pursues, and she was so free of shame, and it was so impressive to me, because like I, as you know, have been like, this process of putting out this podcast for me has been a little bit of a coming out of the closet. And so there's been this like, I guess a feeling not unlike shame attached to it. I'm afraid of people at the school that my kids go to finding out. I'm afraid of my father finding out. And because clearly I feel
shame,
some deserved shame, that if they were to like scold me about it or be disgusted in it, that there's something that they're right about.
But what's the worst that can happen? Like, what's the worst? I talked to you about this.
Yes.
I remember I said, Brian, the worst that can happen is if for some reason the other members of this parent-teacher association decide that you're an unfit co-president because of your quote-unquote lifestyle, which is a word I use hilariously, like, you may lose the position. And if that happens, like, it would be totally fucked up, but you would still be okay. Like, you would still be an amazing partner.
What's that?
You'd still be an amazing partner, an amazing father. You'd find another way to be of service.
Right.
I don't think it's worth like worrying about.
Right. But what I would like to get to is feeling a place where I can just like be confident enough to be like fully out about it and defend it, as opposed to feeling like they might be right. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because where I go to when you say what's the worst thing that can happen, like, yes, if I'm asked to step down as co-president of the Parent Association, first of all, I know that every parent at the school who knows me would be on my side, and most of them are listening to this podcast already and are hugely supportive and are big fans. But my biggest concern that I've expressed to those parents is how it affects my kids. I wouldn't want it to get back to my kids that I had to step down because of this podcast. My kids know about the podcast. They don't know the subject matter. Although they were fully around when I was talking with my friend yesterday about her open marriage, and she was describing all the different relationships she's in. And I was curious what, if anything, they were hearing or taking from it. We have not discussed that yet. But what I asked this mom yesterday, if her kids know, and they do. And she said, I don't want to be an example of shame. I'm not, I don't want them to see me feeling shame about this, because I don't want them to feel shame about any relationships that they are in. And so anyway, I aspire to that, because listen, I'm living my life. I'm doing this podcast, and I am being fully open and honest and authentic on this podcast because I feel like it's not worth doing otherwise. And I am telling more and more and more and more of the parents at the school about it, and more and more of them are listening and reaching out to me and telling me that they're enjoying it. But it's just something I've been noticing about myself, that I'm struggling with this like coming out again, and I think it's my own issue. It's my own like internalized homophobia, I guess, which is a form of internalized shame.
Oh, shame is all singular. And it's all singular.
Yeah.
We're making up all of the narrative about what we're doing.
Yeah.
I love that this woman has shared this with her children, because it answers the question that we had in our very first episode about, don't you want to introduce open relationships to your children? I did have it pointed out to me that I was a little insensitive to how that might land for young women, because I mean, honestly, like biologically, they're more protective, right? Like we have millions and millions and millions and millions of sperm in a lifetime, and they have 400 eggs.
Right.
So there's a biological level of protection in how they approach relationships.
Okay.
So I do want to call that out. That was pointed out to me. But for this woman to share with her children that she's in an open relationship, I think is so cool, because it does rid it of shame, and it does present it as an option to them. Maybe not as 8, 10, or 12-year-olds.
No. And hers are teens, yeah.
But still, right?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
But so that's what I keep telling myself, again, not to inflate what we're doing, but like I feel like society's at an inflection point in terms of open marriage. There's this, memoir that came out earlier this year that I've mentioned a couple times, More, by Molly Roden Winter. I'm hearing it more amongst my straight parent community friends. Everybody's saying like, you may be one of the only ones talking about it, but you're not the only one doing it, even amongst, the quote unquote straight or straight appearing community. And I feel like us being here and having these conversations is hopefully going to help that along because, and listen, I also want to reiterate that I understand that open marriage is not for everyone. But I do think that it is about a level of respect in a relationship and a level of trust and a level of freedom in a relationship that really avoids so much of the tension that otherwise is there because of a lack of autonomy. And so really removes a lot of the blockers that get in the way of love and successful relationships. Once you remove that, quote unquote cheating as a factor, and you realize that, well, if I love this person deeply enough, trust them deeply enough, and give them this freedom, that's not an issue anymore. And we can have this like loving relationship that transcends anything we have with anybody else, but also have the freedom to have this other kind of experience. I think I don't know. Is it crazy to say that I think that would like reduce divorce rates and and create much more love in this world?
No, I mean, let's get delusional about it. We're doing God's work here. I do want to offer like a meta reading to this.
Yes.
Like, I agree with you
Yeah.
that there is a deeper examination of open relationships than ever before.
Yes.
And I love that in all kinds of couplings.
Yes.
If I had to guess.
Yes.
Because the religion of America is capitalism.
Yes.
What will drive open relationships more than anything else is the economy. We can't afford to have single families anymore. Like, we're just going to have to move back to communal living, and that is going to open up the channels for love and affection. That is my guess.
No, that's very interesting.
Who can afford a single family home? Are you fucking kidding me?
Right.
I have no retirement plan. I'm just already picking out my friends who I'm like, you realize the 7 of us are going to have to get a house together.
Yeah.
In the year 2060, can you
Yeah.
imagine what it's going to cost?
I
Like,
know.
we're fucked.
Yeah.
So I do think
I hope we're in that 7.
I know it's unsexy, but I do think there is an economic component to relationships opening up.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you already answered this in what you were saying about your, less than honesty with your husband, in that time. But what the same question you asked me to start this, like, what is your most shameful moment?
What is my most shameful moment? It definitely is. It's got to be around lying,
Yeah.
because let me posit it this way. Something I heard in a meeting one time that has just stuck with me forever and ever is queer people make such amazing addicts because they learn to lie at a very young age as self-preservation.
Yeah.
And that always stuck with me. I can't think of the most shameful thing I've ever done. It's probably something related to like stealing or lying. Because a lot of the things that people would see shame in, I don't have shame over.
That's great.
Anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have shame that I'm in an open relationship.
Right.
I don't have shame that I got through grad school as a sex worker. There's just so much that people could on the outside be like, well, that's disgusting and that's shameful. But it would have to do with, it's definitely has to do with like being deceitful or probably how I treated someone.
Yeah. And I do want to clarify. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I know.
Okay.
I know. I can put my finger on this. The most shameful thing I've ever done
Yes.
to date
Yes.
is tricked my spouse into doing meth.
Wow.
I put it in a Molly and gave it to him without telling him.
Wow.
That's on me. And that's trash behavior.
Does he know that now?
He's about to find out.
He knows that right now.
He will know that on Tuesday, July 9th. He does know.
Wow.
He does know. And he's been very forgiving. But I think that kind of behavior, because I wasn't in the right space that I'm in now, was really awful.
Can I ask what the motive was? Were you hoping that he would become a partner in crime essentially with you?
There was a part of me that yeah, honestly, because there was a part of me that thought if I introduced him to it casually,
Right.
I could be like, wasn't that fun?
Right.
Like, wasn't that cool?
Right.
Don't you think this is something that we could do together?
Yeah.
And also, something about addicts and alcoholics, we are constantly looking to surround ourselves with people who are doing the same thing so that it is normalized.
Right.
So I was just like, oh, if he does it too, then it won't be a secret anymore.
Right.
Like, we'll both do meth and it'll be amazing. And it's funny because he even mentioned, I don't think at the time, but within days of the experience, he was like, what was fucking in that? Like, I have been sleeping terribly. Like, normally you assume after like a big dance party, you're going to be like all wired up, but like eventually you should be able to sleep.
Right.
Like, he knew. Like, he felt it without knowing at the time.
Right. And is that when you came clean, or was it many years later?
I did not tell him on that occasion.
Yeah.
I was such a dick about it. I was just like, yeah, honey, who knows? Like, who knows what's in this stuff anymore?
Wow.
You don't know, but I know, and I'm crazy.
Wow.
Thank you for letting me share that. It actually feels really good to say.
Good. Yeah. I know this feels like therapy. So I wanted to clarify that I do not feel shame that I'm in an open relationship. I'm very proud of my relationship.
Yeah.
It is why I'm doing this, and it's why I'm writing a book. And yes, I'm very proudly in an open relationship. It is just that I have this, I don't know, devil on my shoulder who I'm trying to, exorcise, not exercise, and wanted to have this conversation to like help me do it, because talking with you always opens my mind and makes me think of things from a different angle. Just talking it out, like you just said, is really helpful. And I think my husband has gotten a little frustrated because it's hard for him to navigate, okay, who are we talking about this podcast with, and who are we not talking about this podcast with? And I'm finally like, no. I'm happy with anybody and everybody knowing about it, with the exception of I haven't come around to telling my father about it, and I have not. I've tried as best as possible to keep it out of my work world for a variety of reasons. Not just that's actually less about the content and more about this other kind of shame. Like, am I? I don't want the sense that I'm putting more into this than I'm putting into work. You know, this is a company that I've been with for almost 20 years, and I work myself to the bone for that company, and I always have. And so I have this, like, shame on that front also.
Which is interesting, because that is part of the system. Like, that you would feel shame for not being an automaton and productive in the name. My husband's going to hear this and be like, shut the fuck up. Like, I could pop off about capitalism at any time, but that you would feel shame about not being productive at your job is how the system is built to make you feel.
Yeah.
It's very natural that you would feel that way, because we designed it to make you feel that way.
I've also not told anybody at work that I'm co-president of the Parents Association for the same reason. I don't want them to like raise an eyebrow at the fact that like, you have time to do that? Like, we should give you more work.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that there's no shame in that. I think that we have to protect our free time, right?
Yeah.
Like, our companies do not own us.
Yes.
Do I have shame when I'm not super productive at work? Definitely not, because I know I'm not, because I realized I am a very efficient worker.
Right. Well, that's what I feel. Yes.
I'm a very efficient worker. Like, I should not be penalized because it takes me 45 minutes to do something that takes another person 3 days.
Right. Exactly.
That's not it.
Exactly. And also, by the way, I'm 50. I've been at this company for almost 20 years. It does not fulfill me the way that it did once upon a time. And so I need to find spiritual fulfillment in other ways. And the two ways that I have found are to be the co-president of the three ways: to be the father and husband that I am, to be the co-president of the Parents Association at our school, and to do this podcast.
Can I play the devil's advocate here?
Yeah, of course.
How do you think your father will react when he finds out that you have a podcast some other way and not from you? Like, put yourself in that scenario.
I mean, I've envisioned this conversation many times, and first of all, I have a really difficult time figuring out how he would find out about it. The only way would be if a friend of mine who he follows on social media posted about it. But my father's like rarely even on Instagram. I think Facebook is as deep as he goes. And I think what the conversation would be like is, what is this? You have a podcast? And I would say, oh yeah, it's nothing. And that would be it.
That sounds like a good conversation with a father.
It's not for
sure.
you, Dad. It's not for you. It's gay. It's not for you, Dad. And but I just can't imagine like saying to him like, hey, so I have a podcast and this is what it's about. I mean, here's the thing. What I don't think he would understand is A, that I am in an open marriage, and B, that I'm being public about it in a way that could eventually get back to my kids. He was the person I was most afraid to come out to. I don't consider myself as having come out really until I was finally out to him. And once I was out to him, then it was done. But I mean, that was the big, big, big blocker in my life for a very long time. I consider it the reason I went to therapy for the first time was to help me figure out coming out to my dad. And I mean, I just think it would be so far outside his realm of understanding or approval. And this is a man who I've been on a very long journey with, who I had a very tough relationship with for most of my life, but now have come to a place where we have an incredible relationship, and he's an incredible grandfather to my kids. And it's just the thought of talking to him or the thought of him finding out what this truly is frightening to me, and brings up feelings of shame.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, if you didn't hear it, I heard it. Like, there is shame because you want his approval, and his hearing of this is going to either reject or deny that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not coming at it from the same angle. Like, I'm not at all ashamed if my parents knew about this.
Yeah.
They don't really know how to use the internet. That's rude. They know how to use the internet, but like, I guarantee you they've never listened to a podcast.
Yeah, and I don't think my parents have either.
Clue.
Yeah.
And part of my interactions with my parents has less to do with any shame around my behavior. Like, I am not ashamed I'm in an open relationship. I am not ashamed I'm a crystal meth addict. We've developed a relationship where I feel like I'm actually protecting them. Mm-hmm. Their life is so small and so full of fear. Right. I just don't want to give them one more thing to worry about.
Yes.
And at the same time, is that insulting to them? Like, they're 74 years old. They have seen and been through a lot. They could probably handle it. But also, why bother?
Why bother?
Why bother?
Yeah. Yeah. I 100% see that.
Maybe we can make a pact.
Okay.
Let's all tell our parents we have a podcast where we talk about our open relationships.
I'm not ready to make that pact, but I didn't think I was going to tell any of my immediate family that I grew up with. It's so funny now that I have my own immediate family. I feel like I need to distinguish between the two, but I did end up telling both my sister and my mom. I don't know that I used the term open marriage or open relationship, but I made it clear that it's very sexual. And I think my mother has gotten hints over time that we might be open. But I made it clear that I didn't think she would be comfortable listening to it. And she said, well, I don't listen to podcasts anyway. And so there's just been like this tacit agreement that like, she's very happy for me and supportive and asks me about it. But that's as far as it goes. And I don't think it will reach her universe beyond that.
My younger brother had the funniest reaction of anyone I told. He's like, "Oh, you have a podcast? Cool. If it's not Carly Rae Jepsen, the Beach Boys, or death metal, I don't give a shit." I was like, perfect. Like, there are just people in your life who don't give a shit because they don't listen to podcasts.
Yes.
And that's fine.
That's fine. And I need to learn how to myself not give a shit and not give that shame any power.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say about it is this, and it's something that I learned in sobriety, which we always return to. We're only as sick as our secrets. And shame is a big secret because we never talk about it. And the thing is like, you can take this thing that you feel so shameful about and you can tell another human being and they're like, either A, yes, relatable, or B, what?
Yeah. Right.
What are you fucking talking about?
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to feel shame about that.
Yeah.
I felt shame recently that I walked into a hookup and these guys were partying and I didn't leave immediately.
Right.
Like, I negotiated it for a little bit. So then I left and connected with a sober person and he's like, "Yeah, dude, like, you're a drug addict. Of course you negotiated it." Like, and it also gives you a feeling of like being a bad boy playing with fire.
Right.
Ultimately, you left. Would it have been ideal to like find out beforehand if they were on crystal meth?
Right.
Yes. Did you put yourself in a fairly dangerous position by being there at all? Yes.
Right.
Did you ultimately leave? Yes.
Right.
But I did feel shame about like negotiating the conversation. Like, I definitely hung out longer than I needed to, having had drawn a conclusion about my safety.
Right.
And he was like, "Bro, I've done it."
Yeah.
And that was just so like, and then the shame went away.
Yeah.
He's like, "I've definitely walked into a hookup, seen they were partying, and stayed longer than was necessary."
Right. And I'm finding that too. It's just like coming out. Like, the more I'm talking to people that I was nervous about finding out about this, and by this, I mean, it's not the podcast. It's about my personal life, that I have kept secret for so long, just because it seems like the thing to do is keep your sex life private. But I have found a reason to be vocal about it. The more I talk to people about it, the more people are like, "Thank God you're talking about it. I'm loving listening to you talk about it. And it's great. And it feels, yes, it reduces the shame each and every time." So, yes, talking it out, coming out, all of those things is definitely the shame killer.
Well, the thing that straight people don't talk about, right, is like, there's this whole thing about like gay people shouldn't talk about their sex lives in public. And it's like, well, you have children, so like clearly you fuck, right? That's what I think when I see kids. I'm like, you're just putting your sex life out on display here. Fucking rude.
That's amazing. Only for the sake of time, I think we should take a break and
Let's do
get
it.
to Go Ask Your Dad.
This week's Go Ask Your Dad question, I feel, ties very nicely into the subject of shame.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's the vibe I'm getting from this particular listener.
Okay.
That was projection. Today's Go Ask Your Dad question. I recently found out that a guy I have been hooking up with is actually not open, but cheating. The choice to cut it off should be easy, but the sex is so hot. What should I do?
I mean, the question answers itself, right? Like, the listener says, it should be an easy decision. And, it reminds me of a question that we've addressed, I think, on an episode that has aired, about, if you are on a hookup and the person expresses some kind of discriminatory language that, what we said is that immediately makes them not sexy. I mean, sure, the sex is hot. There's lots of fish in the sea, lots of, hot fish in the sea. And
hot fish. Gross.
That's why we didn't name this Hot Fish. And to me, that just immediately makes somebody not hot. It immediately makes the situation not sexy. Like, you don't want to be that person. who's enabling somebody to lie to their spouse. I mean, I hate to use the word cheat because I just don't like the concept of cheating, but in the end, what it is lying. And as we've both talked about some today, it's the lying in a relationship. Having, whether it has to do with sex or not, that is the most hurtful. And so to enable somebody to do that just feels like the choice should be pretty obvious. And there are other hot sex that you can and will find. And hey, for me, a repeat hookup is less and less interesting with every repeat anyway. So find somebody new.
Yeah, this might fizzle out independently. And what I do want to point out is we enter all of these sexual contracts, that is every single hookup, every single kiss, every single flirt, with good intentions and the information that we have at the time, right? So, listener, it sounds like you entered into this particular contract with information that has changed, right? So what I want to offer is not to feel any shame about your behavior up until now.
Right.
You didn't know what you didn't know. But to keep it real with you, girly, if one, you're hanging on because you think he's going to leave him for you, that's incorrect. And number two, I agree with Brian. If the sex is hot, like there's hot sex to be had with people who are being honest with themselves,
right,
and with you.
Yes.
Right.
And that's sexier.
We want you to feel proud of your behavior. And it sounds like there's a little bit of ick about this. I understand what it is like to think with my dick and not with my head. I have certainly found myself in similar positions. And ultimately, I want to be proud of my behavior.
Well, that's what you were talking about earlier, right? Like when you don't go with your gut, it's usually because you're thinking with your dick and not with your head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So even in asking the question, it sounds like you know what to do.
Yeah.
And you're going to be great.
Yeah.
You're a babe and you're beautiful. And there's plenty of men out there to have sex with who are either in open relationships and open with you about it, or who are single and looking.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say ditch him.
Yeah.
And I really have such like a clear-cut answer. I'm like, this is what you should do.
Yeah.
But like,
no, typically that's not the case.
It just sounds like it's going to end badly.
Yes. Agreed. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, listener.
And if you have a question for us, please, you can DM them to us on Instagram at Dads and Daddies Pod. You can email us at dadsanddaddies@gmail.com. You can check out dadsanddaddies.com and submit it there. And again, next week, come back and listen to us talk all about our thoughts on everything sex can be outside of penetrative sex, when we talk about sides, our evolving thoughts on sides, our own experience with side activity of late.
I am a side now.
Thank you so much. We'll be here back in a week.
Thanks, everybody. See you soon.